Time passes slowly up here in the daylight. Stare straight ahead and try so hard to stay right.
And that last verse, he tries so hard to stay right. So again, the struggle, trying to maintain that simple lifestyle versus the lifestyle he had been living, the high pressure, tense lifestyle of a rock and roll star. Good morning, and welcome to another episode of Deciphering Dylan. I've been trying to cover as many of the Dylan albums as I can, and so far I've got about 15 of the approximately 30 studio albums that have original material. So I'm about halfway there as far as covering this amazing 60 plus year career. And one of the early albums that I so far had skipped over is a personal favorite of mine, actually. New Morning, that came out in 1970, and this is the cover picture on your screen. I think that period when Bob was living in Woodstock, newly married, had his first child in 66, and then he proceeded to have 4 additional children in rapid succession throughout the 60s, so that by the time he was 29 in 1970, the time of this album, he was living probably the happiest period in his life, living up in Woodstock, up in the Catskill Mountain, quiet life with his 4 young children and his wife. That lifestyle is reflected in a lot of the songs on this album. The title song, New Morning, talking about having a new morning in his life. I had a hard time actually deciding which of the many great songs on this album I should start with. There's 4 or 5 that are in pretty keen competition. But I decided to go with Time Passes Slowly. It's a simple song, it's a short song. But of course with Bob, nothing is ever as simple as it seems.
Time passes slowly here in the mountains. We sat beside bridges and walk beside fountains. Catch the wild fishes that float through the stream. Time passes slowly when you're lost in a dream.
So in the first verse, of which there are 3 total plus a bridge, everything seems like idyllic. He's living in the mountains, everything is beautiful, he's living the dream. Well, time passes slowly when you're lost in a dream. That's a very hopeful sentiment, but can it really last? Can you really escape from the problems of life by going to the mountains and living in a timeless sea of love? Well, it wasn't so easy. One of the really great things about this song is that is Bob on the piano. And who knew that he could play such a wicked piano? It's a really jazzy background. The rest of the instrumentation is pretty spare. There are a couple guitar licks in there, probably a bass and some drums, but not a lot of ornamentation. I would put the songs on New Morning together with some of the songs on Nashville Skyline that came out in 1969 as really country-oriented love songs. As I say, I think this was a happy time for him, although it was not destined to last.
Once I had a sweetheart, she was fine and good looking. We sat in her kitchen while her mama was cooking, staring out the window to the stars high above. Time passes slow when you're searching for love.
Here, he said, once I had a sweetheart. So now, instead of living in the present in that beautiful, idyllic wonderland with his wife and children, now he's more back into the reminiscing about a prior love, the one he had before, that's kind and good looking, and he sat at the table while her mother was cooking. And then he says, time passes slowly when you're searching for love. If he's already married and 4 children, why is he searching for love? He should be in love. That should be the high point of his life right there, but he's talking about still searching for love. So already contradiction between the first and the second verse. Now we move on to the bridge.
Ain't no reason to go away, go through town. Ain't no reason to go to the fair. Ain't no reason to go down. Ain't no reason to go anywhere.
Okay, ain't no reason to go into town. Ain't no reason to go up or down. Or ain't no reason to go anywhere. That seems to refer more back to the original premise that he's there in the mountains and he's in love and time is passing slowly and he doesn't need to go into the town or anywhere else because everything he has is right there. But how are you going to keep them in the country after they've seen the lights of the city? And of course, Bob had just come out of a very intense period, most of the 60s spent in New York City and on world tours. So he'd left a very exciting lifestyle. And now he was trying to escape into a much calmer lifestyle in the mountains. But certainly that draw of the big city lights and the excitement and the world of giving concerts and traveling around the world, and no doubt the temptations of the road, including not only women but also drugs, were ever present. It's almost like he's trying to convince himself, hey, I don't need all that stuff, but this is going to work.
Passing slowly up here in the daylight. Stare straight ahead and try so hard to stay right. Like a red rose of summer that blooms in the day. Time passes slowly and fades away.
There you have it, short and sweet. And that last verse, he tries so hard to stay right. So again, the struggle, trying to maintain that simple lifestyle versus the lifestyle he had been living, the high pressure, tense lifestyle of a rock and roll star. Trying hard to stay right, but is he going to succeed? Well, we know the answer to that question. And as he points out in the very last couple lines, it's like a red rose of summer, but it fades away. And we know that he went back out on the road and eventually his marriage fell apart. They got divorced, I think, in 76, 77, about 6 or 7 years after this. And so from that point on, that idyllic family man that he tried to assume was over. That stage of his life was over, and then he was back touring the world, which he's done continually for the last going on 50 years. It's a beautiful song, and if you just take it at face value without listening or analyzing too closely, you could think, oh, it's just a wonderful song about beauties of nature and the happiness of living with your loved one and your children and that lifestyle. But then when you read a little closer and you compare it, to what actually happened, you realize there were some cracks in the facade. For purposes of his fans, it may have been misery for him, but for us, misery created great art. 6 years later with Blood on the Tracks, which was really a chronicle of the breakup of his marriage, he created great art from all the pain that he went through after he left the mountains. I have a chart here I'd like to bring up. We can now add New Morning to this list, and I think that brings us up to 16 albums. If you go onto the Deciphering Dylan main page, you can select playlists, and I have a playlist for each album. And then it shows you how many songs I've done from each of those albums. You'll probably be able to fill in the blanks as far as which albums are missing here. A lot of the early albums are missing. The Jesus period albums are missing. Some of the more obscure albums of the 80s and early 90s are missing. And then since 1997, the only one I think that I've not done of original songs is Together Through Life. So I'll be working on that one soon. Anyone has suggestions as to some of the songs that they would like to see me do reactions to, feel free to add them to the comments, and we'll try to get them done.